has fallen, when fear is coming, still you're calling me. When faith is lost and my hope exhausted, you will be my strength. When my mind says I'm not good enough, God, you're enough for me. I decided I'm not giving up, 'cause you won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo, echo in my soul.
In every season, you keep repeating promises to me. Now there's no stopping what you have started until it is complete.
When my mind says I'm not good enough, God, you're enough for me. Yeah, I decided I'm not giving up, 'cause you won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. See now, your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking down like an echo. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo, echo in my soul. Echo, soul. Echo in my soul. When my mind says I'm not good enough, God, you're enough for me. I decided I'm not giving up, 'cause you won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. Feel it breaking out like an echo. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo, echo in my soul. Yeah, soul. Echo in my soul.
So three more? So three more? All right. One, two, three. What? Two more? You just said three more and that's it. All right. One, two. Come. Last one. But you said one. One. Why do you keep saying one? One. Hey, I'm sorry. What's up, guys? I got this personal trainer here, man, because I haven't been doing as well on my own. I needed a little bit of assistance. But this guy, man, every time he's trying to get me to do a little too much. So I'm a little sore today, guys. But what's up? Welcome, United Movement. We love you, man. Good to see you guys. Yo, we are in week 3 of our series. You know what it is? Hands, feet. Let me hear it. Drum roll, please. Faith training, man. We are in the week 3 of faith training. So hopefully you have been working out in not only your muscles, but your faith muscle throughout this particular time frame, man. Hey, like I said, what we're focusing in on this week are personal trainers. Like I said, I just got myself a personal trainer who is wearing me out. But check this personal trainer out as well.
Work your way up. Focus on your lower back. There should be a big pop. Don't wear shoes. All right, now take them off. Take them off. Time to get our protein on. You got some really big glutes. The cavemen didn't have shoes. They used their bare feet. So skipping breakfast is fine as long as you eat a lot of red meat at lunch. You want to pack in that red meat. Shove it in. You're really good at this for a girl. Oh, here, I got you. It's important to stay hydrated. So are you a Pepsi or a Coke kind of guy? Okay, come on, dude. I got you. I like the toenails. We got this. Let's work as a team. And now we wait for 5 minutes, and if we don't throw up, we can work out. Squat, man, come on. Use the back. In the meantime, you should read this pamphlet on salmonella poisoning. Push it off. Okay, we'll start this again once you've regained consciousness.
Yo, was that like the worst personal trainer that you've ever seen in your life? Like this guy, like it was horrible. It was pretty bad, right? So again, what we're gonna be focusing in on is once again personal trainers, and we're gonna be focusing in on how God is like a personal trainer for us in terms of our faith. He's our faith trainer, but in a personalized setting. So check this out. Last week, what we were able to follow up on was the Tower of Babel. The first week before that, we focused in on Noah. So right now, we're going to stay right in line with that. Obviously, we talked about Noah and the flood. We spoke about the Tower of Babel, which came like right after the flood. And then now what we're going to focus in on is Abraham. Right after the Tower of Babel occurred and God confused the languages because the people were just trying to, again, be so prideful, be so arrogant, prejudiced, making themselves prejudiced over God, preferring themselves over God, right? They tried to do all those type of things. So what we're going to focus in on is the time period right after that, which is Abraham. Literally, the Bible picks right up and it kind of gives some genealogy and starts talking about the lines, again, that came through Noah, and it picks up with Abraham. Abraham came through, again, the line of Shem. Remember, Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Abraham came through that Shem line. Again, I'll give you a little bit of a brief background. God came to Abraham, who was actually called Abram at that particular time. And when he came to him, he said, listen, leave from your father's house. I'm going to make you a great nation. He got up and left. He got up and left. He took his wife. He took some of his goods. He took his nephew Lot. And he said, okay, we're out. And then the interesting piece about that is, again, at the time, Abraham did not have a son. And that was a big deal, especially back in those particular times, because if he didn't have a son, he didn't have anyone to pass down any of his line through, like any of his inheritance. So again, he had a lot of money, but who was he going to give it to? So God made him a promise that he would make him a father of many nations, of a great nation, and that the line that there were eventually, that Jesus will come through that line. He didn't give him the name Jesus, but he said greatness will come through your line. So it picks up right there. Let's jump in. So again, this is in Genesis chapter 15. Let's look at verse 1. It says this. And again, this was previously, God gave him a word. After that time, he hadn't heard much, but then God followed back up. Verse 1 says this. After this, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your very great reward. Verse 2. But Abram said, Sovereign Lord, what can you give me, since I remain childless? And the one who will inherit my estate is Eliezer of Damascus. So again, we just kind of touched in on it. Again, God gave him this promise probably years before, said, hey, I'm going to make you into a great nation. But again, he had no kids. And again, in those time frames, what they were able to do is if they didn't have someone to pass their inheritance to, they would just pick someone that like lived in their household, like a servant, and they would say, hey, I'm going to pass down all of my items, all of my possessions to you. And, you know, they kind of made that contract ahead of time. So again, when God is telling him, hey, listen, Abram, don't be afraid. I'm your shield. I'm your great reward. Abram kind of responds again. He's known as the father of faith. He kind of responds as faithless to a degree, right? You see the faithless hoodie. Shameless plug. But look, he kind of responds with a little bit of a lack of faith. He's like, God, like, I know you're saying you're going to bless me. You're going to have a great nation come through me. I don't even have any kids. Look what it says here, verse 3. It says, and Abram said, you have given me no children, so a servant in my household will be my heir. Did it look like it almost repeated itself? Like Abram just said it 2 times to God. He said, I remain childless, and he said, you have given me no children. Does he sound a little bit upset at that? He sounds a little bit upset like, God, like you're the one that told me to get up and leave. I got up and left. It's been years. You haven't said anything to me. And now you're going to tell me I'm your shield and I'm your great reward? Kind of sound like that trainer that was telling me, keep doing these, keep doing 2 more, 3 more, 2 more, 1 more, right? Kind of sounds like that. Let's see where it picks up. Follows up with this, verse 4. Then the word of the Lord came to him, speaking of Abram. This man will not be your heir, speaking of Eleazar, his servant, but a son who is of your own flesh and blood will be your heir. He took him outside and said, look up at the sky and count the stars, if indeed you can count them. Then he said to him, so shall your offspring be. Abram believed the Lord and he credited to him as righteousness. Let's pause there for 1 second. Listen, at that point when God said, hey, man, look, come outside for a minute. Look up. Can you count all these stars? You probably can't. Even if you could, guess what? That's what your inheritance will be. At that point, Abram said, you know what? I believe you, God. I trust you. He showed him a little bit more. He said, you know what? It's almost like he apologized. He repented of that lack of faith, that faithlessness. And he said, I believe you, God. And guess what it said? It's like God said, guess what? You have all these gold. I'm going to credit your faith as righteousness. He said, you are a righteous man, Abram, because you believe me. Simply because you believe me, you are righteous. You are righteous. Now look, Abram still didn't do the right thing all the time, but look how God viewed him. He viewed him as righteous simply because he took him at his word. He said, you believe me, I rock with you. You my guy. You my type of guy. Right? Picks back up verse 7. This is what God also said to him. He also said to him, I am the Lord who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land to take possession of it. Look how God follows up. It's almost like he's reading Abram's mind. It's almost like he's reading his mind. Again, if I was kind of giving some commentary, like as if I was Abram, Abram probably was thinking like, man, you told me to leave here. I left my family. I left everything I knew. I left everything, and I did this for you, God, and you didn't even give me a kid. Like, you said you were, and you didn't do it, and I left, and I did this, and I. What does God say to him? He says, I am the Lord who brought you out. He's like, boy, did you think you did this on your own? Do you think that you are the one that said, okay, well, I'm just going to do? He said, I did it. So again, look, quick reminder to ourselves, don't get so high up on ourselves where we think that we did this and I did this and I did that. So God, you should be thankful. You should be grateful to me. God, you owe me one. Because no, God said, he said, I did it. Verse 8 follows back up. Now look at this. Look at this. Look, it just said God credited righteousness to him because he believed him. But look how Abram at this time followed back. It says this. But Abram said, Sovereign Lord, how can I know that I will gain possession of it? Are you serious? Again, this is Father Abraham. He's known as the father of faith. Again, people later on say that I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Like, this is how he's known. Does he sound like he has a lot of faith right now? And look, if God was his trainer, does it sound like he has a lot of faith in his trainer? He's questioned him at least 2 or 3 times from my count. He said, how can I know that I will gain possession of it? It's like me doing these pull downs, and I'm like, trainer, you keep telling me to do a few more. I don't feel any muscles here. I just feel like you got me doing stuff just to do stuff. What's going on? How can I know? Look at this follow-up. This is follows up in verse 9. So the Lord said to him, it almost sounded like the Lord got a little miffed at him. And so the Lord just said to him, bring me a heifer, which is like a cow, basically. Bring me a heifer, a goat, a ram, each 3 years old, along with a dove and a young pigeon. He's like, yo, just bring it over here to me. At the time, he's like, okay, awkward. He just said, how am I supposed to know? He's like, yo, bring me this stuff. But again, we have to realize the context of that society. If anyone were to say that, they will automatically know. The person who would be getting it would know, like, oh, it's about to be a covenant. They're about to go in a covenant. They're about to make a covenant with me. It's sort of like a contract, but deeper. And we'll get into that in a moment. Verse 10 says this, Abram brought all these to him, cut them in two, and arranged the halves on opposite sides of each other. The birds, however, he did not cut in half. Verse 11 says this, then the birds of prey came down on the carcasses, but Abram drove them away. Verse 12, as the sun was setting, Abram fell into a deep sleep, and a thick and dreadful darkness came over him. Verse 13, then the Lord said to him, know for certain. He almost spoke right back. How do you know? How am I supposed to know? Know for certain that for 400 years your descendants will be strangers in a country not their own, that they will be enslaved and mistreated there. Now, if I was Abram and I would hear this, I'd be like, God, I thought you just said that you were going to bless me with a nation and a son. Now you're telling me this nation is going to be enslaved? Like, because y'all would see Abram trying to back up, like, I don't know about this covenant thing. I don't know, right? Follow back up with this. Look, now again, we spoke about, again, in these times, we have to, again, look at the context. We always have to look at context whenever we look at this, because again, to us, in American, Western society, this just sounds weird. Why would God ask for this, right? So again, so he brings this. He brings a heifer, a cow. He brings all these things right here. Again, he cuts them in half. In that Eastern society, it was well known. When they would make covenants, again, it wouldn't be like a contract how we make today. If I'm going to buy a house, I'll have to sign on like 50 documents. And even when I'm signing off on these 50 documents, I would feel like I'm signing my life away. Because they're like, we will throw you in jail under penalty of law and all this stuff like that. But again, this covenant was deeper than even a contract where I'm basically signing my life away. Because that's why I really wouldn't die. If I didn't do something, if I backed out of a contract, I really wouldn't die. But when they made this, he said he cut them in half and had one on this side and one on this side. This is a very graphic picture here, but it's graphic for a reason. So what they would do in this Eastern culture is when a contract is made, say if a king is making it with someone with a lesser servant or something like that, what would happen is the king would walk through first and then the other individual will walk through after. So again, they would literally walk in between all this blood and gut. They would walk in between. And you know what that would signify? That would signify, I'm making this covenant with you, and if I go back on my covenant, if I go back on my word, the same thing that happened to these animals, let the same thing happen to me. That's how deep this covenant was. That's how deep this covenant is. But again, look what happens. Look what happens. Again, remember this context. The king will walk through, and then the servant will walk through as well. That's how the covenant will be made, because both will be tied to that covenant, that blood pact. That blood contract, right? Look what happens, though. Verse 14 says this. And then he follows back up. And he's talking about the 400 years that they will be exiled. The nation will be exiled. He says this. But I will punish the nation they serve as slaves. And afterward, they will come out with great possessions. You, however, will go to your ancestors in peace and be buried at a good old age. In the fourth generation, your descendants will come back here, for the sin of the Amorites has not yet reached its full measure. Again, he's speaking all this prophecy. Again, if I was Abram, I'd be looking like, okay, right? You said I'm going to be cool though, right? I'm so selfish. I would be thinking it, right? Verse 17 says this. When the sun had set and darkness had fallen, a smoking fire pot with a blazing torch appeared and passed between the pieces. So again, if we go back To that, again, it said everything has set. Abram is somewhere on the side. It says a smoking pot goes through. Then a blazing torch goes through, right? Look at this. Verse 18. On that day, the Lord made a covenant with Abram and said, to your descendants, I give this land. From the Wadi of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates, the land of the Kenites, the Kenizzites, the Cadmonites, the Hittites, Perizzites, Raphites, Amorites, Canaanites, Gershites, Jebusites, and any other ites. He basically said, listen, all of this, I'm going to give you all of this. But do you all notice what was missing in that covenant that we just talked about? What we just say? We just said, listen, what happened is the king will go through, and then the other individual that's a part of that covenant will go through as well. Did Abram ever walk through that blood path? Did he? No. He never walked through. He never walked through the path. The only thing it said was that it said the torch of fire walked through, the smoke went through. This is basically what happened. God promised himself. He made the promise. Have you ever heard somebody say, oh, yo, on God, I promise you, on my mama, on this, on that, right? On that, I promise you, I swear to God. Listen, God is God. He couldn't promise on anything higher. So that's what he said. He said, I promise on my name, on God, on myself. I promise you this covenant. And guess what he realized as well? He said, you know what? Abram, you will never, the nation that's going to come from you will never be able to hold up your end of the bargain. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go through and I will go through again. So guess what? I know you can't hold up your end of the bargain. You're going to mess up. You're not going to be able to hold this up. So guess what I'm going to do? Since I know you're not going to be able to hold up, something is still going to be required. There's going to be a debt that has to be paid because you're going to break this end of the covenant. And again, it's not a contract, it's a covenant. You're going to break your end of the bargain. A life is going to have to be taken. You catching my drift? What that life was? Look, God swore on himself and backed that up. Imagine, I'm going to put this in very plain text. Look, if I had a trainer and I had this personal trainer and he said, listen, I said, okay, yo, I would really like for you to train me. Right? And I told that trainer, I would really like for that trainer to train me. He's like, all right, cool. And I said, okay, well, what would be the terms? Like, how much do I owe you? And he'd be like, listen, just keep training. And I got you. I'd be like, okay, but like, how much do I owe you? No, you keep training. You train and I got you. And I'm like, okay, well, what happens if I stop training? No problem, I got you. I'm like, okay, so if I get muscles, I don't owe you. And if I just like stop and I don't get muscles, I don't owe you either? He'd be like, nah. You'd be like, no, man, great deal. I was like, where can I sign up? This was the deal he gave him. He said, I swear on myself, and I'm not going to let you deal with the death portion of it. No, I will send my son to take the place because, again, a debt has to be paid. Yo, that's an awesome covenant. And that covenant gets passed on to us. Again, let's really quick. Let's talk about the difference between a covenant and a contract. I was kind of teasing that a little bit earlier. Again, we know more about contracts. We're like, you do this, and then I do that. So look, a contract we know about. A contract is an agreement between two parties. A covenant is the most solemn of all agreements. Again, it's on a much higher level. Again, a contract is dependent on the performance of each party. Again, you do this, and then you do that. If you break this contract, guess what? I'm out. A covenant is irrevocable. He said, I got you regardless. If you break it, which you will break, he said, Abraham, I know your people, your nation, they can't hold up their end, and I got you. Look what it also says. A covenant is indissoluble. A contract, it can be dissolved at any point. Somebody breaks that, it's broken. A covenant is a commitment valid until death. A contract, if one fails to perform satisfactorily, the other party may cancel. And then lastly, again, a covenant is sealed in blood. It's not dependent on performance. So look, family, I just want to give us this united movement. Look, Do we have to work our faith? Do we have to please God? Should we? Yes, we must do those things. But look, it's not based on performance. It's not performance-based. It's not. God gave that covenant at the beginning. He said, I got you. I know you can't hold it up, and I still got you. Because I love you. It's based on love. That's completely based on love. We have to get that. We have to get that in. So look, let's give a few quick pro tips and we out. So these are pro tips to pick or to figure out who is a good personal trainer. I call it ACE. You see that ACE? You see what I did here, right? So it's availability, credentials, and experience. Well, I looked that up and it said, if you're trying to find a very good personal trainer, that's what you want to look for in a trainer. And look, these same things we're going to look for in God, because God is our ultimate personal trainer. So the first one, availability. Availability. Look, man, check this out. Before we actually jump into availability, check this out. I was looking at the Last Dance, right? Which is talking about Michael Jordan and his last season as a Chicago Bull. And it spoke about his personal trainer. And this is an awesome depiction of a trainer. Check it out.
I worked with Michael Jordan for 15 years. Everyone knows me as his trainer, but my official title was a sports enhancement specialist. If you walk into a gym and I've worked with you for 2 weeks, you're not my client. If I passed you a ball for 1 day and I shot video of you, you're not my client. I define a client of mine who's worked with me for numerous years. Scottie Pippen, numerous years. Charles Barkley, numerous years. Akeem Olajuwon, numerous years. Michael Jordan, numerous years. Kobe Bryant, numerous years. Dwayne Wade, numerous years. I mean, those are the top individuals, but I have others that have had successful careers.
Yo, isn't that tight? Doesn't that remind you of God? It's like, yo, you need time in. He's like, yo, you're not even, if you just like, if I passed you a basketball, or if I say, hey, lift weights 1 day, he's like, nah, you're not even like a client. I don't consider you that. You have to put time in with me, right? I love that. I love that metaphor for a personal trainer. So again, let's start off with that first A, which is availability, man. Availability. If we're looking at God as the ultimate personal trainer, and we say, yo, is God available? Hebrews 13:5 says this, I will never leave you, and I will never forsake you. He says, yo, I'm available to you. He said, even when everyone else can leave you, again, he says that, also says that in the Bible, your mother and your father may forsake you, but I will never leave you. Look, again, it's not a contract, that's a covenant that he gives us. So again, he passed the first criteria in terms of being a great personal trainer. That's the A for availability. The C is credentials. We gotta check out God's credentials. If you're looking for a good personal trainer, like you don't want them just to be sitting up there like, well, who have you trained? I need to know like what's some things that you've done. Like I need to know what you've done. Revelation 22:13 says this. God says this about himself. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. Look, if somebody is that, I'm rocking with that. Look, even just the guy, the personal trainer from The Last Dance, he said that himself. He's like, yo, man, I trained Dwayne Wade, I trained Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, all these guys. Man, look at my resume, look at my credentials. God says this, I'm Alpha and Omega, I'm the beginning and the end, I'm the first and I'm the last. Credentials. Check. Let's look at the last one. Is E, experience. What experience this guy? Because again, look, even if somebody had credentials, if that trainer, that same trainer who was Michael Jordan's trainer, had credentials in basketball, but I'm training in tennis, I may be like, dude, like, I don't know if your credentials, if your experience actually matches what I need to help me get to the next level, right? Let's look at his experience. Job 38:4-7 says this, nigga. This is where, again, Job was experiencing all of these hardships. He's going through all this stuff, and he's like, God, where are you right now? And what I'm doing, I've been doing all this stuff for you, God. Like, why aren't you reciprocating this for me? Look how God responds to him in terms of experience. God says this to Job. This is like the ultimate like shutdown mic drop moment. He says this to Job. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Tell me, if you understand who marked off his dimensions, like can you tell me that? You know stuff? He's like, surely you know, right? You don't know? You don't know because you're trying to question me, right? He says, who stretched a measuring line across it? On what were its footing set? Or who laid his cornerstone? While the morning stars sang and all the angels shouted for joy. Like if you know, like you trying to check me on my experience, like let me tell you, I was there for all of that. This is what I do. I do this. He came at him super heavy because he said, yo, let me tell you what my experience is. God says, I am the ultimate personal trainer. Abide by me. Stick with me. I want to be in covenant with you. Let's check out our memory verse and we'll wrap up. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 says this. Because this is what it comes down to. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. And lean not on your own understanding. In all of your ways, submit to him, and he will make your path straight. Because look, that's what it comes down to. At the end of the day, you can have a personal trainer with all the availability in the world and with all of the credentials and all of the experience, but if you do not trust that personal trainer, guess what? You're not going to get the results that you need. That's what God is saying. He's saying, trust me. He said the same thing back to Abram. He said, listen, once he saw that Abram trusted him, he said, I count your faith as righteousness. You know why? Because he trusted him. This verse says the same thing. Trust the Lord in all your ways. Not some, not a little bit. All of your ways. Don't lean to your own understanding. He said, this is the key one right here. In all your ways, submit. How many of us know that's tough to do, man? Like I said, even especially right now. So, well, God, if you could have stopped this corona thing and you want me to submit to you, and I got all this stuff going on, you want me to submit to you right now, that's tough for me to do. I don't know if I trust you. God, I think you need to build your trust up with me, God. And I think he goes right back to all those other things. We need to look at that ace. We need to look at that. God is available for you. He has the credentials. He has the experience. He's like, yo, but I need you to trust me. None of this means anything unless you trust me, unless you have faith. Let's pray. Dear God, we thank you so much for this day. We thank you so much that you are the ultimate personal trainer. You train us in that thing. You know what's best for us. God, you have lasted and withstood the test of time. God, let us lean into you. Let us trust you. God, let us acknowledge you as our ace. We know that you are available for us. You have the credentials. You have the experience. God, let us lean into that. God, let our faith grow in you. God, let us submit to you. But God, if there's any that has not submitted to you, they've never put their faith in you, they've never put their trust in you, they have trust issues, they've never seen you as their Savior and their Lord, they've never acknowledged you as that, but today they're like, you know what, I want to have that. I want to have that faith. I want to have that trust. I want to know you. If that's you, to say, and you believe that Christ was sent to earth, that he was that ultimate payment. He was sent there because there was a payment that was needed for that sin, that we were going to break that covenant. He sent Christ down to earth for our sins. He lived a blameless life. He was born of a virgin birth. He died on the cross for our sins. 3 days later, rose up. And he did that all for you. If that's you right now, and you say, God, I repent for my sins. I'm sorry for everything I've done. I want to grow closer in you. I want a relationship with you. If that's you, and you accept him in your heart. You say, God, I want you to be my Lord and my Savior. I want to do what you said, and I want you to save me. And accept him into your life. And if that's you, you're part of the family right now. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Hey guys, once again, thank y'all so much for joining us today, man. Yo, man, I don't know about y'all. I'm loving this faith training series. It's building up my faith. I'm getting a little workout too, but it's building up my faith real crazy, real heavy, man. Hey, man, quick reminder as well. Make sure that we are attending our loops. We have loops every single week. Guys loop for high school hangout, virtual high school hangout is Mondays at 7 p.m. We have a middle school guys loop on, what day is that? Wednesdays. No, it's not Wednesdays. I'm losing all my days right there. So yes, it's actually on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. We'll catch that up. And then the ladies loop for middle schoolers is actually on Thursdays at 6 p.m. And then right before that, obviously 6:45, we get it cracking. And then our message series, our services on at 7 o'clock. So guys, make sure that you are attending that. Make sure that you are joining. We want you all to stay engaged throughout this process. We know it's tough. We know it's hard, but guess what? It's easier when we do it together. Just like working out. Working out is easier when you're working out with somebody else. Having a personal trainer, guess what? That helps you grow. Having other people around you while you're working out, that helps you grow, man. Hey, man, so we love y'all. We're going to see y'all again next week. And we out. Hey.